thanks for calling out Raju Srivastav, and we've all sort of grown up with the Gajodhar stories, right? So I think that sort of quickly reminded me of that. I think first of all, let me call out that the Slack team today here is really fortunate to have to share this couple of days with you all senior leaders from the HR industry. And I'm not sure if how many of you have actually used Slack. Can I have a show of hands, or actually know Slack rather? Oh, great. That is great. So I think for me, I lead enterprise business for Slack, and while I was trying to prepare for this and try and sort of put some context about what should I talk about to an HR audience predominantly, and what should I put things together, I sort of came across a critical aspect of technology that was spoken about in the narratives that I saw, what was mentioned on the website, which was human-centric technology driving the whole, flexible world or ecosystem or hybrid, whatever you may call it. At the end of the day, it all means the same thing. Now, when I started thinking about it, what I realized is it is important for me to call out a couple of things which are critical from a hybrid ecosystem perspective. And what Slack actually sort of talks about is bringing that human-centric technology, which is enabling that ecosystem of hybrid workforce live in action. And I'll talk about it from three aspects of it. The first one is, like we all talk about, right? Employee engagement, employee experience, and that from a collaboration standpoint. But while we talk about it all the time, and it is important that we make that experience enjoyable in the journey of an employee. And that is the aspect that I'll probably speak about more as we go through some of the next 20 minutes and what I'm going to talk about. The second aspect of it is making work productive, right? All of us probably talk about it again, is a boardroom conversation, always has been pre-pandemic, post-pandemic. How do you make work flexible at the same time productive? And that's another aspect that I'll probably touch upon in next 20 odd minutes. And the third aspect of this will revolve around how do you build a journey for an employee right from hiring to leaving the organization, hiring to retiring, if I have to call it. And that's again an important aspect from an employee journey perspective. Now, when I keep talking about this, you probably hear employee as a buzzword all the time that that I have been talking about. And this comes out from last 2.5 years, right? Where employee experience, employee well-being, employee engagement were all part of annual reports somewhere. But last 2.5 years, it's popped up with every CEO probably talking about how important the employee well-being experience and engagement is for an organization. We can easily divide that whole journey into three phases. The first phase probably was what we spoke about pre-pandemic. If you look at the pre-pandemic era, what we were trying to achieve is we made some great offices. We had all aspects of community building, all collaboration, those water cooler conversations, all of them happening in the office ecosystem. We probably had some organizations offering spas and gym memberships and swimming pools and so on and so forth, in order for them to provide an amazing experience when the employee is in the office. While all of this was happening, we still had those softwares which basically were trying to manage the punch in, punch out time, maybe the time sheets and all of that, for us to again focus on one clear aspect, which was productivity, which again always was a discussion that was happening. Are we productive enough as a business? Now came March 2022, and it all changed the whole dynamics. We all know about it. I don't need to speak about it. But what it introduced basically was a lift and shift. What most of the organizations did, and probably that was the right time for them to do it, and that was the only option for them to do it, is to lift and shift the working environment from an employee's office to employee's home. The whole aspect of the recreational activities, the community building, the cultural aspect of it, all was sort of gone because we couldn't manage that aspect of it as a part of the whole disruption that was happening at that point in time. Now, all of us probably would agree that none of us grew up dreaming to work 9 to 5 on virtual calls, right? I mean, nobody sort of, had that passion of doing all those calls across the day. Well, there are a lot of researches, and you can probably read some of those data points that I have called it out there. But at the end of the day, all of this impacted one critical element which again all of us are aware of, which essentially was balancing work and balancing against the disruption of life that an employee or everybody of us were going through. Now, of course, what this meant was the next phase, the Great Resignation era, right? I mean, all of us probably, again, have spoken about this, discussed about this. Some of you probably experienced about it as well. You saw some specific industries where attrition went through the roof. I mean, some of the largest ITS organizations were impacted so bad due to this aspect of Great Resignation. And if you look at, if you sort of try and understand that, that is where all the C-level guys started coming together. They were swarming teams, and all of that started discussing how do we cover this aspect of our employee loss that is happening, because at the end of the day, this became extremely critical. It also gave rise to a lot of, what should I say, a lot of buzzwords that probably exist, the gig worker, the moonlighting, all of that. I think there's a big debate going on. All of that were sort of a byproduct of this particular era which sort of hit us. Now, when we talk about this, that's where the whole hybrid ecosystem started coming together, and we started talking about how do we deliver an employee experience or an employee engagement, employee well-being in a hybrid ecosystem that exists today, and that is where all the strategies started coming together. Now, while we did that, India offers an interesting paradox here, and this is a Future Forum survey. If you look at it, 76% of the people say they want flexible remote work options, but at the same time, 61% of them say they want in-person time with their teams as well. You can clearly make out there is a big chunk of people that is sitting right on the edge, who need best of both worlds to come together. Now, that is where we talk about a concept of digital headquarter. What a digital headquarter typically is, that Slack talks about, is not about a lift and shift or a prototype of a physical headquarter, but it is an ecosystem where I, probably sitting at my home on a couch, on a coffee table in a restaurant, or maybe in office as well, should be able to have all the resources, all the applications accessible to me for me to make my work productive in an enjoyable way again. And at the end of the day, that is what used to be when I used to work out of my office, probably, which was my physical headquarters. While I do all of that, at the same time, it is extremely important for me as an individual to collaborate with my teams, with my peers, with cross-functional teams, with maybe somebody from HR, somebody from finance or sales, all of us to come together and have that kind of an interaction, which probably I would love to do on a social media, or which I enjoy. Now, that's where we build our digital headquarter in terms of supporting our customers. The largest customer, I mean, if I have to call it, being an IBM, who's deployed it so well that today they are reaping the benefits. And we have a booth outside there. We can run through all the data and numbers around what we bring to the table, but that's been the concept of digital headquarter that we talk about. So let's try and understand, what does a digital HQ mean? The connect aspect of it. I have touched upon the connect aspect of it mainly from a perspective of employees getting connected together. Your team, but this goes beyond employees. Today's ecosystem of collaboration cannot be defined only about employees connecting with each other. You have your partners, you have your customers. How can you connect with all of them together in a seamless ecosystem which enables 360-degree collaboration in a secured and seamless way? And that's how we sort of build these three pillars in terms of the whole digital headquarter that we talk about. Breaking down silos is nothing but breaking down those gaps in communication and collaboration that sort of are enabled to the connect that I sort of called about. Flexibility. All of us probably know what that flexibility means. How do you make sure that I, as an employee, while working, have the ability to connect seamlessly, maybe through a video call, through sharing my screen or whatever it may be, in a seamless, secured way, but also have the ability to connect in an asynchronous way with somebody who's probably not sitting in my own geography, but still sort of, have that seamless ability to communicate with that particular individual, because that's what flexibility is, of me not spending 11 p.m. in the night to wait for somebody to come on a call with me to talk about something which probably is a pressing issue for me. And the third aspect of this digital headquarter is automating work. AI is probably the buzzword, also the abused word today, but what we are talking about is an automation that I, as a sales individual, can bring into my work. There are so many repetitive tasks that I do on my day-to-day job. How I can automate without an intervention from an IT or a support that is coming in and trying to tell me how do I go about it, how this needs to be, tracked and so on and so forth. I may be from HR, I may be from sales, I may be from procurement. I should be able to make my life productive by bringing automation into my life. Now, if you see carefully and talk about this concept of digital headquarters, and maybe there are a few IT leaders in this room as well, this is exactly what a digital transformation was expected to achieve in bringing all aspects of collaboration on a technology platform. And we have sort of spoken about this in a different way, bringing the employee engagement aspect of it into this ecosystem. Now, if I have to deep dive a little, and I'll not probably spend too much of time because, like I said, we have so many things which we can talk about, so many customers that we can talk about. There are two ways we are trying to break down silos, and I touched upon this already, but one is the internal engagement. And let me take an example here. I mean, since I'm in sales, I probably will talk about sales as an example. Think about me as a sales individual running a deal, which is a multi-million-dollar deal, or maybe a small deal. I need to go through so many aspects of contract management, customer support teams, and so many other lines of businesses that I need to involve to deliver a particular solution to a customer, or at least get my deal going. How can I bring a legal, a finance, a customer success, a solutions engineering team, all of them together on one channel to make sure I'm getting a response to one of my query? Maybe it may be legal, rather than me sending an email to someone and then waiting for that guy to respond to me, and then waiting and another guy to respond to me, and then getting on a call for all of us to talk about that proposition and what we're going to do. It is completely a waste of time. And that is what we sort of bring when we talk about the channels ecosystem. Slack Connect. I, as an individual who's supporting a customer, I mean, typical scenario, I think a lot of you probably would align to it. If I'm a customer, I have raised a ticket for a query to be resolved or for a problem that I'm facing. Typically, there is an agent who sort of starts getting involved into it, tries accessing data that is available related to that problem, tries solving that problem. Maybe if he cannot solve that problem, then there is a next guy who comes in the shift, takes up the problem. There's a broken communication between the two of them. The customer is chasing the sales guy, trying to understand what's happening to my problem. And all of that is happening without any one of these guys, neither the sales guy, neither the support guy, nor the customer knowing what's happening. We can bring all of them into the same ecosystem through an external connect, which goes beyond your internal organization to a customer and even a partner or a distributor for that matter. That's how we talk about a collaboration from an overall perspective. If I talk about the second pillar, and again, I mean, these are some of the features which are making an impact. Today, let me take an example of somebody who's joined recently in an organization, right? I mean, a new person coming on board. This particular individual, if he or she is joining a project team, needs to do so much to get information from a particular member of the team who probably was working on that project, take information from buddy, take information from the manager, all of that, and come together and thereby keep setting up those video conferencing call with each and every member who's going to give him or her that information for him or her to be up to speed on that. How much time is committed and wasted on that? Huddles is a great way to sort of cut all of that and straight away get into a conversation with somebody whom you want to engage with multiple screen sharings or whatever you can do in a real life with a human-centric approach, which again, as I said, it comes very close to the way we would love to interact on a social media or any other platform that we look at. Now, move this collaboration into a slightly different, geography, which may be somebody sitting in US, and that is where, like I called out earlier also, the whole gap of that communication for me trying to get in front of somebody who's in different geography can be resolved through the asynchronous collaboration mode that we have through clips, where I simply send a quick clip in terms of whatever my problem statement is, and then before I even wake up, I probably have an answer to it. No waiting time at 11 o'clock in the night, not trying to set up a meeting and not trying to sort of, get in front of somebody who, day after another, all that time can be saved. We have enough and more case studies here, enough and more customer stories here to talk about, but in the interest of time, I'll probably move to the third pillar, automation. Today, I being in sales role, like I called out, what I've typically done is, I as a non-technical person, I don't know technology, but what I've been able to do in my role is to build workflows for my direct reports, for them to share a certain information through those workflows, for me to have those information readily available for me, where I clearly can make out which are the areas I need to focus on from my priority perspective in next week or next couple of weeks, and so on and so forth. I don't need a techie guy to come in and tell me how you build this workflow. This saves me a lot of time on getting on a call with each and every direct reports of mine and trying to understand how that week or couple of weeks are going to look at. Again, a massive impact on productivity where I clearly know where I need to contribute. And these can be workflows that not only sales, maybe somebody in HR can create for their role, somebody in procurement can create for their role. The idea is to make it so low code or zero code that a normal human being in an organization can leverage it and make it without an intervention from anybody from a technology side of things. And that is the human element, that is the human-centric technology aspect of it that we talk about. Now, while we talk about all these three pillars, let's try and see how does these impact to the employees, which is core to your organization, right? All of us are talking about it today. It's all about delivering an employee experience. And when you talk about employee experience, it is an employee aligning to your vision and mission, whether it's the organization vision or mission, or whether it's the project team's vision or mission, in a work from anywhere setup. Now, that can only happen if that employee has all the right resources available for him or her to execute that, that particular job of her or his in an agile manner. And that's exactly, the impact that we sort of try and bring in when we engage with our customers. You talk about employee engagement. I think, Yogi sir spoke about learning management. How can you integrate your learning management solution into the daily work of your employee, where they can pace it out in terms of how they want to drive their own learning, by not always going and logging into some system because there is my manager who sent me an email saying that, hey, you are still at 30% of your training to be completed, can you go ahead and do that? It can be seamlessly integrated into my Slack instance, which can be a one window of anything and everything that I do, which is required from my role perspective, going beyond the team collaboration that probably I've spoken about and is enough and more, opportunity for an individual to drive. New employee engagement. I mean, if you look at today, in a lot of industries, a new employee basically, when the interview process is finished, they sign up, the contract is in. How many times does an engagement happen between the time that the employee or a new employee has signed up a contract and the day of joining? Maybe once or twice. There are customers of ours who created a pre-engagement or a pre-boarding channels for them to have all those people who are joining on a particular date being there with some senior leaders, introducing them to the culture of the organization and talking about it. Think about the whole value ecosystem or the culture you are able to establish by doing that. If an individual is coming on board, what does that individual need? That individual needs the availability of all the right HR-related resources, project-based resources, whatever that person is going to do as a job, readily available to that individual because he or she is excited, wants to get on with it. And the first gap happens when he or she has to depend on 100 other people for him or her to get that information, and then thereby go through that painful journey of learning, eventually impacting the productivity of that particular individual. And employee productivity. Today we talk about HRMS system. I think some of the famous ones, Workdays, Darwin Box, Success Factors. All of this can be integrated to bring a single window of engagement for a particular employee. You talk about CRM tools like Salesforce, like Microsoft Dynamics, like like Zoho, or anybody for that matter. All of that can be integrated and brought into a single window environment for a particular employee. Basically, Slack can be that platform which provides the opportunity for an employee to engage, to manage all their work right from one window. It may be a developer working on a Jira tool or any other tool, or it may be anybody else, like a few instances. We have 2,600 odd native integrations which come in, where all of that can be encapsulated to deliver the experience that we intend to deliver for the employee. Like our CEO will say, Slack would be the 2% investment that you will Slack will be that 2% investment that you will end up making for your teams to bring that value out of the 98% investments that you have made. In any organization today, you will typically would have invested in 100 to 200 odd softwares. And if you have to bring that productivity into that, integrating all those softwares in a one-window environment is where the impact is from an employee engagement and an employee experience perspective. Now, as we talk about this particular aspect, and as I sort of end my presentation, I would want to highlight one aspect. I think a lot of you probably would know that Slack got acquired by Salesforce, or may not know this. But Salesforce paid good $28 billion to acquire Slack, which was a 7-year-old company at that point in time. And of course, it was one of the largest M&A that happened in Silicon Valley at that point in time. The whole idea for this engagement, and that is what we talk about, Slack will be the interface from a communication collaboration perspective for any of Salesforce technology that you would have invested or will invest into future, bringing all that 360-degree view from a collaboration and communication tool standpoint. And that's going to be the vision. We are already working on that vision, and we have already secured some of the clouds from a collaboration perspective that we can bring on Slack. This is going to be the journey that we walk through as we move into future. Now, as I end, I would want to leave you with 3 thoughts. The first one, we are not a direct messaging or a video conferencing tool that you will call as a collaboration tool, because collaboration doesn't end with a direct messaging and video conferencing. It is much more beyond, like I called out. It's the enjoyable way of communicating and collaborating with people, and that's exactly we bring to the table. Today, with the investments that people make in best-of-breed technology, Slack is the interface which allows you to bring all those investments together and not create a platform which locks you in. So today you might have invested in SAP, you might have invested in Oracle, you might have invested in Salesforce, because these are best-of-breed products in the areas of investment that you would have done. All of these can be integrated seamlessly. So this is about giving your employee the right opportunity for them to engage with the best-of-breed softwares and not lock them down into a particular platform, so as to say. And the third aspect of it, the whole hire to retire journey of an employee can be built based on some of the aspects that we spoke about on Slack. Now, I know I've probably given you a lot of monologue. I'll probably take another 30 odd seconds, but please make sure you interact with our teams on the booth, and they will be able to share with you more and more details about some of the key use cases that you are running, again, from an employee engagement and employee experience standpoint. But I think the last aspect of it is, you might think there's so much that I have spoken about, there's so many things that I have shown. Is it for real? Or is it for future? It's definitely real. It is happening, and you will see it more as it happens outside as well, and as we engage further with you, because we know that you are the flag bearers of that employee experience, and we are delivering that with a lot of our customers and partners that we work with. With that, I think we'll play a short video, and that sort of ends my session. Thank you very much for listening to me.
What is Slack? We ask ourselves that every day. And wouldn't you know, we have an answer. Slack is a messaging app for business, yet it's also so much more. It's your company's home for everyone and everything. Your digital HQ. Slack is made up of organized spaces for anything you're working on, so you can move a project forward way faster, share ideas, set deadlines, and make decisions together in a dedicated space. It's productivity on your own terms, giving you flexibility to work the way you work best, so you can collaborate live. Oh, hi! Find information from across your company. Aha! Or create some focus time. And it's a place to connect with everyone you work with, inside and outside your company, so you can bring together the right people with the right context, and everyone can stay up to date. People do their best work when they have a place to work together. That place is Slack. Get started today and transform the way you work.